I want to preface everything by saying that like I'm a capitalist, right? And I know that's kind of a weird statement to make, but in the world of doing good, like, I think there's this kind of misconception of like, oh, because you want to do good, that you can't thrive and be successful, right? Like, and I think that was my personal journey and my biggest struggle because I started my first company when I was 14. I've had about seven different startups since then. Some were successful, some were really difficult, expensive learning experiences. But I always tell people like I like nice things. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, right? And I now live in New York City. These are incredibly expensive places to be, right? Like I like to go out and eat, but now that I want to do good, I don't need to be poor and suffer, right? Like I think long gone are the days where it's like you're either a tree hugger that's poor and starving, or you're like a wolf of Wall Street, right? Like I think that line is, and I think it necessarily is like we're kind of seeing the market shift, and I want to be an advocate in kind of really pushing that narrative and that market shift because I believe in what we call profit with purpose, right? Like I believe that I should be able to pay my rent and thrive and do good, right? Like and where capitalism is not a means to an end, and it's not a means to exploit people, but to drive human flourishing, right? Like that's what I believe when I say I'm a capitalist. Like I believe that capitalism was always meant to create a marketplace that enabled and uplifted humanity and human flourishing, right? Where we're supposed to build products that serve humanity at a fair and good price, right? And that for products that are good quality, right? Like not things that are meant to break down, and so we can exploit people. All of that said, so that's kind of set me on this journey, right? As an entrepreneur that always loved building companies, I had a personal conviction about 7 years ago, which is when I founded this company. It was like, for me, faith is a huge part, like it's the foundation of my life. And I had a conviction. My faith beliefs was like, hey, God was asking me, it's like what you spend your time and energy on should reflect your values, which is to love God and love people, right? And I was like, all right, well, I spent all my time working. I spent all my time building companies because it's not so much money was a key aspect of it, but it was kind of how do I create something of value in the marketplace? And that's where profit with purpose, like really, like I started wrestling with that idea. What does that look like? How do I serve, nonprofit industry obviously helps and serves humanity, but it's incredibly broken. It's like the word nonprofit is like the opposite of capitalism, right? But I'm like, how are you supposed to solve the biggest problems in the world and not have any money and resources to do it? Right? Like you look at nonprofit salaries, which are dismal and like just why it's like a teacher's salary. It's like, what are like our markets are not reflective of the values, right? And how do we kind of go about resetting that? All right. I know that's kind of a lot. Let me pause there.
No, you're exactly right with all that, and let me tell you, when we first started out, I was one of those people that thought, "Oh, nonprofit, everybody's gonna give us everything for free." I did. I went in like that, and then people are like, "No, if you have an event, you have to pay for the venue." I'm like, "What? You don't just donate it for free?" And I did. I had to learn that whole thing. It's like, "Oh, this is actually a business." And if I wanna retain people that are actually gonna be on staff and do what they should be doing to, like, their highest potential, I have to treat them like employees that are getting paid. Like, it can't just be people doing favors all the time. And that was a huge stumbling block for us in the beginning was just we would have, part of our friend circle, people would be like, "Oh, I'll do this and that." And then they didn't. And then I would sit there be holding the ball. Well, like, well, who else is going to do it? I guess I just do everything. So it was one of those things where because we didn't really have a business infrastructure, I really feel like it just stunted um what this vision could have been. I had this very grand vision to raise all of this money that we would then literally give out like Oprah to these women that are, going through breast cancer treatment to help them pay those residual bills, right? As their co-pays, childcare, gas and gas now, right? Um, but then I was like, oh, it doesn't really work that way. So everything you're saying, like I lived and I know exactly how that feels on a really, really core level of like, wow, it's like I really wanted to do all this stuff, but I didn't know how to pull it together. And for all the books that are out there, how to start your own nonprofit, they don't really tell you the day to day that this is a business. You treat it like a business. And then it will grow. And like you know what? I totally believe in capitalism. I believe because for me, capitalism is freedom. People to have the freedom of creativity and ideas to bring stuff into existence that wasn't there before. So if you're always feeling like, no, I can only do it the only way that it's always been done, then, there's no new ideas for making it better. So I get exactly what you're saying.